Hello and welcome to Studio Made. My name is Maurice Carmelli, and today in this video I'm going to show how to use aluminum composite material, also known as ACM, as a durable and professional surface for fine art. I'll cover everything you need to know, sourcing panels, preparing and finishing them so you can use them in your own studio. Let's get started. Okay, what is ACM and why should I use it? Well, ACM, as you can see where I'm setting this on fire with a propane torch, it's highly heat resistant. It's two thin sheets of aluminum that are heat bonded to a plastic core. Once this stuff cooled off, I couldn't separate it. I didn't get much farther than this because it dissipates heat so well. And for that reason, it's used in building cladding. It's used in sign trade a lot. The core is polyethylene or polypropylene. Both are heat resistant. Aluminum itself dissipates heat quite well. Anyone that's welded aluminum will know that. The other coating that you typically find on this at art supplies usually is this white polyester coating that's also heat bonded to the face. All these are problems when it comes to painting. They're not readily receptive for paints and primers. They don't say this at the art supply. Typically what I see them saying is that you just have to lightly sand it, put your favorite primer on, you're good to go. Well, that's not actually the case. Fortunately, it's quite easy to deal with. If you have the right primers, if you have the right processes, which I'm going to show here shortly. But you should be aware that there are many other types of aluminum composite materials that are available, not at the science supply, in sizes that would make it quite reasonable to actually go to the trouble to get. Namely, these would be at science supplies, at plastic suppliers, and industrial metal suppliers. Most cities here in the United States, most large cities have all of those. And I see they're also available in Europe to some degree. You just have to hunt down. I'd first go to science supplies and I'd look for plastic suppliers. They often have this product. It's quite popular, used by a lot of industries. Now, along with this white polyester coating, you can get these brushed aluminum finishes that are quite nice. They also have ones that have copper that's plated onto the surface. That's typically what you find at an art supply. You don't find real copper. I haven't seen one yet. But you can also at metal suppliers buy thin sheets of copper. This I think is 20 or 22 gauge. You don't need to go very heavy. It's not very expensive in thin sheets. And I'll show later how to bond the copper to the aluminum composite, which is an ideal surface to bond this to because this is dimensionally stable, does not expand or contract. So this is a great surface to take very thin copper and bond it to here to make a very permanent surface. Now, the other kind of aluminum composite material that I don't see at this art supply, I haven't seen them yet, is one that has a polypropylene core, but the core is corrugated plastic. That's what this is, super light stuff. This is a painting where I glued linen on the corrugated plastic core. Very light, very rigid. You can work quite large with this. I do prefer it on larger panels. This is a surface that I prepared for gouache by using an absorbent gesso and then sponging different colors of tinted gesso with watercolor onto the surface to keep it absorbent and to make it look paper-like. Makes a beautiful surface for gouache. The other thing I do with aluminum composite is I prepare for drawings with silver point. This makes just the most perfect permanent drawing surface, and you can create very subtle paper-like textures. In the case for silver point, I take gesso and I add ground silica to it, which makes a perfect abrasive surface for silver point, but it's still quite smooth. And you can also bond paper to these. So if you're want to do oil paint on a paper surface, Arches sells excellent papers for that. I usually prep my own by sealing the papers with shellac soap, which is the base for India ink. And you can buy it or you can make it, and you can tint it, and you can seal it. But a lot of the papers available for oil painting on work quite good. And obviously for gouache, you can just take watercolor paper and bond this on, which I'll show the methods of bonding to later. I'll also show how to wrap these with fabrics. My preferred way to use this product is to attach either paper, polyester, or linen to the surface. but you can work it on it direct. When I do plein air painting, I typically work on it direct, and I have a special primer that I use for doing that. Quite easy to apply, and you can order this stuff cut from a supplier. Even though I have the equipment, and I'm going to show here shortly how to manage this stuff and how to cut it down and how to deburr it, you can buy them or have your supplier who has a panel saw cut them down. If you give them the directions for the sizes, you just have to call them up, and I'll explain a little of that later. And call them up and tell them exactly what you want. You have to know that they're going to cut in long lines, so you don't want 1,000 different sizes, but they can do that for you. So, and finally, there are other composite materials and sizes that you definitely won't get in art supply that you might need. Let's say you're doing large work and you need some really big panels. At an art supply, besides the 4 foot by 8 foot, that's very common, they have 4 by 10 and 5 by 10. And I believe in some kinds of materials on special order, even larger than that. Typically, when I go those large panels, I go with the corrugated type material, which is very light. At plastic suppliers and industrial metal suppliers, not so much at science supplies. You also have other products. One being a composite material that's a honeycomb in the middle and 2 thicker sheets of aluminum on the outside. Even museums are experimenting with this stuff for mounting old artworks on. This stuff's pretty diesel. I mean, probably outlast any of this other stuff. Even though this other stuff is quite durable, this stuff's incredibly durable. It's also very expensive. But if you have the budget for it and you need it, this is a wonderful product and comes quite large. Very stable material. Step down from that, but still quite incredible, that I've used is a honeycomb core of aluminum with fiberglass on the outside, or which is this, or something that's not aluminum composite, but still in that range of modern science, very durable materials, which is a synthetic paper core and either fiberglass on the outside or synthetic paper on the outside. All these I do prime, but I often glue canvas onto them because they're super light and dimensionally stable, meaning they don't expand or contract, which is one of the major advantages of aluminum composite material. It's a perfect blend of the craftsman need for a hard surface and modern science. It bridges those two together. When they do get large, they sometimes get a little, though this is 3 mil, quite sturdy, they will flex a little, they'll get a little bit heavy. So I typically will cradle those. Something I'll show in one of the segments here will be how to cradle, either traditional or collar cell cradle. And finally, the material that I think artists should be aware of that you definitely won't see in an art supply, you will find this mostly at a science supply, which is, they call these sign blanks. They typically in the past came in steel, and then at one point they started selling them in aluminum. They're a thick sheet of aluminum, either 0.060 or 0.090 thick aluminum. The 060 is plenty thick. I wouldn't go heavier than that. And then they have a powder coat on both sides. I've bonded canvas to these surfaces for small panels. They're beautiful surfaces to work on, being so rigid, being so thin, they frame nice. And also, I have lightly sanded these and sprayed the primer on that I'm going to show later, work direct on. One thin coat, and these are good to go. So that's another one you should be aware of. All this stuff, by the way, is listed in my blog, which there's a link to in the description, which I am doing a companion blog to every one of my uploads. So I give a lot more detail there, but I'm not able to do the demos like I am here in the YouTube video. So next, let's talk about how to cut the stuff down and deburr it and prepare it for painting. Okay, for cutting ACM, it's really quite simple. If you're going to buy the big sheets and you want to cut down your own sizes, I would suggest you get a circular saw, battery-powered circular saw. You can do the bulk of the work with this and a sheet of foam from your big box store, typically the denser 2-inch thick insulation foam. Set the blade just to cut through it a little bit, and as you cut the ACM, you're cutting into the foam, which is also cooling it. It's a fairly safe operation because you're supporting it so it doesn't sag, and it's quite easy to do as long as you have a straight edge. Of course, you're not cutting this freehand. The straight edge that I'm showing in the inset is this, which is just 2 pieces of wood glued and screwed together, and then I cut through it with the saw to show me exactly where the edge of the cut will be. And then I double side tape this to the ACM, set it on the foam, and make my cuts. As long as you're very good about drawing out exact right angles, you can make very accurate squares. If you want to go beyond that, have made a MDF template or make it yourself of the sizes that you typically use, and use that to copy route, which is done with a small handheld cordless router. These are quite powerful, or powerful enough for cutting ACM with the right bit. And in that case, you're going to want to use one of the flush cutting bits that I'm showing, either a straight flute or spiral flute or compression bits. Any of these work because this stuff is so easy to mill. Now, if you want to step up from the circular saw, you go to a track saw. This is about the least expensive track saw on the market. In the description, I list all the different tools that I use. These require the track, of course. They come with the track. This is a fairly safe way to do it. We'll always make a perfect straight cut, and it shows you exactly where it's cutting, and you're still doing this on the foam. So I can actually get the same quality on the track saw with this inexpensive circular saw using my own jig. That's never a problem cutting in a straight line. If you want to go to a step up from that and you have a table saw, you don't need a big cabinet saw like a furniture maker might use. The small table saws are great. You still want to cut it down to a manageable size with your circular saw. And then you want to get the right blade, which is either a combination blade. This is a heavy-duty multi-purpose blade used for woodworking. It will cut solid wood, it'll cut plywood, and it'll cut the aluminum composite material quite well because it's mostly plastic with very thin sheets of aluminum on it. Cuts really nice. Or the plastic cutting blade. This is 80-tooth, this one's 60-tooth. Either of them work. Just about any good carbide blade will work. What I'm showing is me cutting the material, and as you can see, the blade is a little higher than you would cut the plywood, because if you have the blade too low, it'll pull up a burr. But no matter what, when you cut this material, you'll end up with a burr. So you need to deburr it. And even if you get it from a supplier, and if you have the material cut down, which I often have the material at least half a sheet cut down into sizes that I want, you need a deburr tool, which is what you're seeing here. There's many kinds, and a file is nice to have. You could get away with only the file, but the deburr tool does a wonderful job. Very easy to use, very nice to have, inexpensive tool. Sandpaper works too, but I prefer the file is what I typically use. Now, if you want to cut shapes, then you're going to need a router base with a circle cutting jig attached to it. This is one that uses a stronger corded router. However, nowadays they sell for these cordless little palm routers, they sell bases for cutting circles, and you can probably cut 2 or 3 foot circles with some of the bases. You don't need a lot of power to cut through aluminum composite material, so these with a bigger battery is more than enough. And actually, you'd be surprised. These go, you can cut quite a few pieces. These go quite far. You're going to want to cut a template. I typically cut it out of 1/2 inch plywood or MDF. I like to put handles on it, so my hand's always away from the bit. As you can see in that here where I'm cutting my circles on a router table. So a router mounted in the table, and with a flush cutting bit and my template cutting along it with the material double-sided tape stuck to the template. Pretty easy to do, very fast to do. I think I did about 20 or 30 bases in maybe a couple hours with setup and everything, the cleanup. So for that, you're gonna want the right kind of router bit. There again, just about any bit works. Compression bits, spiral bits, straight bits, they all do a wonderful job. You want to make sure that you deburr, because in all cases you're going to be pulling up a burr, and that's really all it is to cutting the material. So if you're one of the artists that has a lot of unusual size, I have friends that they'll have panels that are 27 3/8 by 18 3/4 or some weird sizes. They need to have those sizes for their work for whatever reason. This material is ideal because it comes in big sheets and you cut it down to whatever you want. But just remember, if you want to order the stuff from a supplier cut, they do have panel saws. You have to call them up and ask them what they need as far as a file or directions on what to cut, because whatever you give them, they will type into their machines. The machines typically are CNC, which is computer numerically controlled, so they can type in all the dimensions you want and it makes straight cuts. So if you have a 4x8, it's going to make repeated cuts. So if you want different cuts, just remember it's going to make the same cut all the way through and repeated cuts the other way. So that's why typically we'll have half a sheet cut and say I'm doing a lot of plein air work. So I have like 9x11s and I'll make a whole bunch of, have them cut a whole bunch of 9x11s for me and leave the rest for me to cut myself with the tools like you see. That's just something to remember. Sign shops, plastic suppliers, and some industrial metal suppliers do have the saws and the ability to cut or shear the material. Other than that, I would say that as far as difficulty, this is probably one of the easiest things to cut, simply because with plywoods or Baltic birches, you have wood grain and you're going to be pulling up grain sometimes and there's tear out and there's a lot of dust. None of that happens with this. In fact, the thinner sheets can be cut with a knife. It just takes too long. So that's about it for cutting aluminum composite material. And next I'm going to talk about how to prep this material for painting.